Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
You country bumpkin.
That's funny.
And welcome to another Weird Wednesday. This one's actually, well, if you're listening on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, any of those, I guess it's not. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you're actually watching it because this is a video cast. Which we did one for conversational questions, which I had you on with me on that one too.
Yeah.
So, and if you're a patron, then you got to see a video podcast of Matt and I. But we're trying to make video podcast a pretty regular thing here on the channel, and so hopefully you'll enjoy that. I feel like after a few minutes they'll be like, just go back to sound.
I mean,
that's what he looks like. Go back to sound.
No, I was gonna say I feel like by the time I get here, I am like drugged through the dirt. Tired, beat down, makeup smeared all over my face.
We both have kids. Well, I have one kid, you have two kids, and we both have jobs. So, you know, at this point in the day,
American dream.
We should just start doing these Saturday midday so we're like fresh and wide awake. And
I don't know about you, but I'm not fresh and wide awake midday on Saturday.
Oh, I'm getting old, so I wake up. Anyways, we're finally going to get into some Missing 411. I want to do a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown of it at some point, which is going to require a lot more research. And I, talk about David Pilates and Pilates, however you say it. You're supposed to say his last name. And kind of how he started this and the history of it, because it's really fascinating. But for now, what we're going to do is we are actually going to read you some Missing 411 accounts. And this is all from the website Top Tens with the Z.
With the Z.
With the Z, so make sure we give them credit. But, just a short little backdrop. So a lot of people go missing in, like, state, parks.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go missing. And David Pilates, a long time ago, started looking at some of these missing person cases. And, a lot of times the situation and the circumstances are really bizarre. You've got like little kids getting to places that they had physically, it's impossible for them to wind up. People just seemingly vanish without a trace. It's a lot of similarities, and he kind of noticed that, and he never tries to tell you what he thinks is causing all of this. He just points out the similarities in these instances. So we're going to read some of these stories. And who's starting? Am I starting or are you starting?
It really doesn't matter. Whatever.
All right. I'm going to start with Dior Kunz. On July 2015, Dior Kunz and his girlfriend, Jessica Mitchell, were on a camping trip with their 2-year-old son, Dior Jr. They brought along Jessica's grandfather and a family friend named Isaac Rainwad. The campsite was extremely remote on the edge of the Rocky Mountain National Park, and it was only one dirt road leading to the area where they parked their trailer and car. The morning after their arrival, Jessica Dior and Dior Jr. went all the way into the nearby town to run some errands. When they came back to the campsite, Rainwand was holding a large fish. He said he'd caught it in the nearby river. Jessica and Dior Sr. asked where he caught the fish, so they all began to follow him with their son. The little boy suddenly decided he wanted to get candy from his grandfather, and they allowed him to walk by himself to the campsite, which was only a few yards away. The grandfather confirmed that little Dior returned safely to him and that he was watching over him. But in the blink of an eye, the toddler was gone. During an interview, the parents explained that they searched for the boy for about 20 minutes before trying to call 911. There was no cell phone service at the campsite, so they had to drive down the road until they could actually make the call. A search party helped them comb the area for several days with no sign of his scent or tracks. Helicopters with heat-tracking cameras flew over the area as well. A 2-year-old should not have been able to get very far. Everyone was baffled. Where was Dior Kunz? Years later, the case is still unsolved. Many in the general public believe that his parents are suspects, and there was a public outcry to have them tried for murder. However, there is no evidence that they actually killed their son.
I think I've heard this one before.
I have heard that one before. And they went to town. They come back, saw the other guy, the grandpa's friend, holding a big fish, and we're like, "Where'd you catch that?" And went to look at it, and that's the thing, man. I'm just such my daughter is 2 right now, and I'm so protective in the sense of there's no way I'd be like, okay, I'm not saying they're bad parents, but I'm just saying, like, I could never do that. I mean, never just turn my kid loose to run through the woods by themselves.
Exactly. No.
I mean, it just...
Not at 2. They can barely talk.
And I mean, like, because of these stories, because there are, man, I've read a lot of 411 stuff, and there are so many instances of children, like, being the ones to go missing. It's adults, too, but children... you'll see a lot of those, and it just terrifies me. So when Ellie goes hiking for the first time, you best believe she's gonna have the little leash thing on her tied to my belt. So some skinwalker tries to grab her and run off, they're gonna drag me right behind.
Yeah, I think that story sounds kind of sus, anyways.
It is. It's. And I think I watched a little documentary or something on it. I don't know if it was on YouTube or Netflix or something, but I'm pretty sure some people were like throwing some suspicion at the grandpa's friend, which he was the one I thought showing him the fish. But I know that there's a lot of suspicion of that group, like someone in there.
You couldn't come up with something better than, oh, that's a big fish. Show me where you caught it. Like, what?
And also, too, man, the thing that sucks with kids is that being a 2-year-old is such an ideal target for like a mountain lion. I mean, trying to get away from the paranormal here, because a lot of people say skinwalkers, extraterrestrials, government experiments. Just being realistic here, I mean, like, a 2-year-old is the perfect prey size for, like, a mountain lion.
Yeah.
They strike fast. And it would be, and I mean, when they do, a lot of times when you watch them, they go straight for the throat. A mountain lion going for, like, a little kid's throat.
I don't want that visual, honestly.
I don't either, but what I'm saying is it would happen so fast and so violently that it probably would not make much sound. I mean, it would not, pounce, grab, and go.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the kid's just missing, and there's no real scent of him because he's not, probably he's just being carried in the mouth of this animal.
That's true.
I'm telling you, man. I'm glad we live in an area where there's only rumors of mountain lions, no actual.
And then watch when I leave tonight, you're going to send me a picture of a mountain lion in your backyard.
That's a reference to something on another podcast we did a few weeks ago. Check it out.
I didn't buy it.
What's our next story?
All right. Danny Philippidis.
They all have it. That's one thing in common. They all have interesting last names.
Give
apparently. Your
kids not interesting names and they won't be in these files. I don't really know Philippidis. We're going to go with Philippidis because that sounds that's legit. The only thing I got.
That sounds.
All right. In February 2018, a Canadian man, Danny Philippidis, was on a ski trip with his friends in New York. It was around 2 p.m. and they had been skiing for hours. They were getting ready to go into the lodge, and Danny said that he wanted to go on one more run down the mountain before their lunch break. By 4 p.m., Danny was failing to return any calls or texts, and the friends were concerned. They began searching for him, and after being unable to find him, they told the employees at the lodge that he was missing. A team of 130 people scoured the mountain without finding him. 6 days later, Philippidis' wife received a phone call. She didn't recognize the number, and it sounded far away and staticky. It was Danny's voice. He was incoherent and confused, and then hung up the phone. She called the number back and pleaded with him to call 911 for help, so he did. He had no idea where he was, and he just described his surroundings. When the paramedics finally found him, he was still wearing all his ski gear and in need of medical assistance. He was holding a brand new iPhone, and someone had cut his hair.
What?
Right?
That sounds like some extra dimensional type something right there.
It's crazy.
I mean, like, really, so with the kids, a lot of times my thought does go to like predators in the woods, but how do you explain a grown man? And how long did it say he had been missing?
6 days.
Gone for 6 days. Comes back with his haircut and a new iPhone.
It's wild.
And, that is one of the conspiracy theories is that, there are portals to other worlds in some of these. So I mentioned a podcast or two back, but the lighting in here is terrible, and I'm planning to get some better lighting. Since I can't see, I am going to be using my cell phone light to read this. So hopefully it'll be a little bit smoother in my, because I can't see it. And of course, Jessi printed it in like size 4 font.
I just pressed print on the website, and the printer just did its thing.
All right, so we're going back to 2014. A medical doctor named James McGrogan went on a split snowboard trip with friends in Colorado. Now, not many people have heard of split snowboarding. I know that I haven't.
I have not either.
It's a sport that's a lot like cross-country skiing or hiking in snowshoes. He came prepared with a cell phone and a satellite GPS system. He was much faster than his friends, so he said that he would wait for them at the next stop. They lost sight of him and never saw him at any of the stops along the trail. When the search team went looking for him, they found no tracks in the snow that veered off of the trail, so they had no idea where he could have possibly gone. 5 days later, his body was discovered 4.5 miles away as the crow flies, which was more like a 14-mile hike, as he would have had to have climbed up mountains in order to get there. His body was found by 2 hikers at the bottom of a frozen waterfall. The search party had gone over the area multiple times before, but had never seen him until that day. McGrogan was mangled in a strange position. His skull was crushed, as if he had fallen from the sky. He was still wearing the full ski outfit and helmet, but there were no boots on his feet, and he had also taken his gloves off. The search and rescue team later found his discarded split snowboard, but they had never found his boots. His cell phone and GPS were still working, and he had packed a backup battery as well. They tested the area where he was found, and there was a cell phone signal, yet he never called for help. The police deemed this to be an accidental death and closed the case.
How could he call for help if he's in a mangled position with his skull crushed?
No. They're saying, like, before that happened, like, if he got lost at some point, why didn't he call for help?
I have a theory.
All right, let's hear it.
A dragon picked him up and dropped him.
Not even trying to be funny, but there are a lot of instances where it does seem like something comes out the sky and grabs people.
Exactly.
I mean, like, there are some stories I've heard of people that are hiking, and their hiking buddy will be, 10 yards behind them, if that, or 10 feet behind them, and all of a sudden, they're just gone.
Dude,
and it's stuff left on the ground. Like, one guy, I remember the story was like there was change and stuff on the ground, as if, like, to visualize it, like something came down and grabbed them by their feet, turned them upside down and took them up in the sky.
Those got to be some really quiet dragons, though.
And what if it's like snare traps? Like in the movies, you step in it and it goes, takes you up in the tree. And then maybe
they would scream,
maybe
though.
There's something up there, and as soon as you get up, they kill you.
Dude, that's another thing, though. Like, whatever's taking them, these people aren't making any noise.
Mm-mm.
It's like they're just like, maybe they're like getting sucked into a portal by accident.
Well, there are a lot of interesting stories that in time we'll definitely get to, where it does seem like people will be missing for, I don't know, a week. And when they're found, they think they've only been gone like 20 minutes.
That's alien abduction right there.
Like they go off to take a leak, and then the next thing they know, they get done peeing and come around the corner, and everybody is like, there they are. And they, they're like, you've been gone for a week. Where have you been?
Like, I didn't take a week-long piss.
I just took a little tinkle.
I mean, I thought about taking a dump, but I was like, that's going to take too long.
I'm glad I didn't. It's been like 2 weeks.
So maybe this guy stepped into a portal, or like, I still don't understand what split skiing is. Do you?
No.
Okay, well, anyway, maybe he stepped into a portal, and the portal where he came out was at the top of that waterfall, but like...
And it just dropped him straight off the waterfall down.
Yeah. I
mean, it definitely could have been. I mean, it I don't know why you would go that far off course, and if you got lost, why you wouldn't... Unless, and sometimes it could be more rational. Maybe he did, it mentioned that he was very far ahead of his friends. He was way faster than they were. What if he was just bored, burning some time, and thought, hey, I'm going to climb up to the top of this mountain and, get a good picture.
But they said there were no tracks.
True.
Off the trail.
True.
So the only logical explanation is either he got picked up by a dragon or he walked into a portal. Those are the only two things that could have happened logically and scientifically.
But I wonder, no, because I was going to say if it was a snowdrift going through, it could have covered up his tracks, but then it would have covered up his regular tracks too, I feel. You know what I mean?
I didn't think about that. Well, everybody else is walking on the trail too, so they might not would have Yeah, that's a possibility.
I still feel like what happened was he saw that he was way ahead, knew he had time, thought, hey, I bet I could get a good picture from up there. Or even just, I'd love to see what it looks like.
But they said that they checked that area before.
And that is a commonality with a lot of these missing 411 cases, is that the people end up being found in an area that has previously been heavily searched.
This is wild. We need to get to the bottom of this because now I got questions.
Oh, yeah. I think that's way more questions than answers.
All right. Maurice Demetz. I'm probably saying that wrong because I am not educated.
Illiterate.
All right. In 1981. Oh, wait. I forgot the brilliant idea that you had. Here we go. Oh, I can see clearly now. Okay. In 1981, an 84-year-old man named Maurice Demetz went topaz hunting with his friend David McSweeney. That's such a cool name.
That really is.
Demetz had a PhD in theology and in the 70s had said in several publications that he believed the Antichrist was coming. He wrote that the devil would appear as a political, religious, commercial. This is autocrat. They drove to Pike National Forest in Colorado. Once they were in the park, they had to drive 16 miles down a dirt road until they reached a spot called Topaz Point. The Native Americans claimed it was haunted by evil spirits. Early settlers called this place the Devil's Head, which was a very interesting coincidence considering his theological background. Maurice could barely walk because he had bad knees. He needed David to help him down a small hill to get to a sandy digging spot in the forest. When it was time to leave, David walked to Maurice's digging spot to say that they should go in about 10 minutes. He went back to his own digging site 150 yards away to clean up his tools, but when David returned to Maurice's spot, the elderly man was gone. With his bad knees, it would have been impossible for Maurice to climb up the hill on his own, and he couldn't have gotten far into the forest, yet he was gone. He honked the horn, called for him, and searched for a long time. McSweeney flagged down a nearby car and asked them to find the police while he continued to search. The local authorities searched for 5 days, and yet they never found any evidence. The police closed the case, claiming they did all they could. Demetz's wife sent a letter to the governor of Colorado to reopen the case, and she never received a reply. After Pilates created a mini documentary about the case for Missing 411, pointing out that there have been a cluster of similar disappearances in Devil's Head. After premiering the mini-doc, the police reopened the Maurice Demetz case over 30 years after the disappearance.
Yeah, I've actually heard that one before, and it's kind of sad.
It is.
It's like this elderly man who can't get around on his own, and, he just like whatever took him, because, clearly something took him.
Yeah.
It could have been a bear or... some people probably think a skinwalker or something, but whatever took him, I hate that. It's really sad.
It is really sad.
What do you think in that instance?
Dude, well, considering he was alone, really could have been a wild animal. That one to me, but why would they close the case? That's what I don't, after 6 days, it says after 6 days or so, they closed the case. What the heck, man? It's like they're trying to cover something up.
And some people do. Some people point to certain, aspects of these stories where it certainly seems like there is somebody trying to cover something up because they don't put a lot of attention into it. It's just like, oh, well, they're gone. And what's sad is that probably is the sentiment sometimes, well, it's been 6 days. There's no way he's alive. He's old, so...
But they still shouldn't close it, because what if it was like a murder case,
Well, and then on top of that, at least for the family.
Right.
If that was like your grandpa or something.
Can you try a little bit harder?
I don't care how old he is. Help me find him.
I know. They didn't even find any remains. Don't close the case that fast.
Right. I agree.
That upsets me.
This is well, it is though. I feel bad for his family and his wife. I bet that was heartbreaking.
I know.
And then they'll never know.
All he wanted to do was dig in the dirt.
Taking it back to Father's Day weekend of 1969, 6-year-old Dennis Martin was at Smoky Mountains National Park with his father, brother, and grandfather. They camped out for the night, and the next day a man approached Mr. Martin asking if his sons wanted to play with his kids since they were about the same age. Dennis's father agreed, and the children started the big game of hide and seek. Dennis's father kept an eye on his son from a distance. Dennis hid behind a tree, and when the other kids jumped to reveal themselves, Dennis didn't. His father got up and ran over to where he had last seen his son, and he was gone. The Appalachian Trail was nearby, so he ran at full speed for 2 miles, yelling and calling for Dennis, but he could not find his son. They called park rangers and spent all night looking for him. The search for Dennis Martin became massive. The FBI, Green Berets, park rangers, and local volunteers searched for 6 weeks, so he got a lot more attention than the elderly guy. 6 weeks.
Wow.
The only thing they found belonging to Dennis was 1 shoe and 1 sock. They never, ever found a body. David Pilates conducted interviews and dug through files with testimonies, and the Key family had been camping in the park the same weekend, and they asked park rangers where they could go to see bears. They were told where to go, and when they arrived, they reported hearing a scream. Their child pointed to the top of the hill, saying that he saw a bear. The father said it looked more like a scary-looking, wild, hairy mountain man dodging behind trees while carrying something over the shoulder. So that sounds like, I'm sure the first thing some people would jump to would be Sasquatch.
I don't think that they would steal children, though, honestly.
Are you one of those that thinks the Sasquatch is a peaceful creature?
Yeah. Are you not?
I don't know. I'm indifferent, I think that I judge people based on my experiences with them.
Okay.
And I haven't.
What is your experience with Sasquatch?
I haven't had one yet, so I don't really have an opinion on. Oh man, I did have so I had a customer. I went out to their house. This was back. The fair was in town, so it'd been like in October.
Yeah.
And they told me that Sasquatch runs through their yard every night.
What?
Well, not every single night, but that frequently you can hear Sasquatch running through their yard.
How they can hear? Why don't they set up cameras?
That's what I said. I'm like, all right, because they said you can hear his giant footsteps, and boom, 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 and he makes this like huffing weird noise, and I'm like, oh man, have you got it on camera? Well, no. Okay, if I thought Sasquatch was running through my yard on a regular basis, you best believe I'm gonna put some kind of trail cam, something to capture that. See, that's the thing, man. It's like a common sense thing.
I wouldn't put it out for the public to see, though, because then they might try to hunt him down, and he's very peaceful, so I wouldn't want to put that on him. But just for my own viewing pleasure, I would like to see that. I don't know why this dude hadn't put cameras out.
I'm pretty sure our mutual friend JP thinks that the Sasquatch it can communicate with its mind.
Yeah.
You say this like I didn't realize you were that big into Sasquatch.
It's not that I'm so into Sasquatch. It's just that I believe everything that I read in the Dolores Cannon books. And I sent you that chapter, that section, which was only a few pages. But everything that you're saying that our friend JP believes is like what she says.
I have to ask him if that's where he gets any of his information. But yeah, they say Sasquatch runs through their yard on a regular basis.
That is crazy.
And I just can't help but think, if that is true, then why in the world would you not try to get that on camera?
Do they live in the country?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's way out in the boondocks.
Can you imagine, like, Sasquatch is running through someone's backyard in the town?
Can you can you imagine, though? Like, you live kind of out in the country, too.
Kinda.
It's real quiet out there where you live at night. And you imagine, like, trying to sleep and hearing, like, giant footsteps going through your yard?
No. And I sleep with my window cracked. So now I'm not going to, just because I'm freaked out.
See, and I'm not even worried about Sasquatch or anything paranormal. I'm not going to sleep with my blinds open or my window cracked because I've seen the movie Strangers. No, thank you.
Strangers. I have to. It's so hot in my house.
Get a fan.
There's one in there, but it's broken.
Well, get another one.
I owe too many people money to be buying stuff. All right. We got time to do more?
Yep, you do one more, I'll do one more, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay. Wrap it up. Okay, here we go. In February 1977, a 24-year-old man named Stephen Kabaki was cross-country skiing through the snow near Lake Michigan. Once he reached the edge of the lake, he took his skis off to sit down and rest. When he got up to leave, his own tracks were gone, and he became lost. The last thing he remembers was walking through the snow, feeling numb and exhausted. He blacked out. In the blink of an eye, it was spring. What?
Another like time portal or
what?
Yeah. Yep.
He was lying in a grassy field in the middle of a forest wearing clothes that weren't his. Sitting next to him was a stranger's backpack containing running shoes and glasses that did not belong to him either. He hiked to the nearest town and asked a local resident where he was. They told him he was in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, 700 miles away from where he had been skiing. His aunt and father lived in Pittsfield, so he knocked on his aunt's door. His family was in shock, hugging him and asking him where he had been. Kubaki had been missing for 14 months.
Wow.
Get back. Well, I guess if it was like an abduction type of situation.
That's what I was thinking, man. The only paranormal thing I can really think of that ties like would work with that would be like an abduction, and then it's just his memory was erased.
And maybe they like knew that his dad and his aunt lived there, so that's where they put him.
I feel like people that, not everybody, but I feel like a lot of abductions and alien encounters, it's almost as if like they follow you your whole life.
Yeah, I have heard that.
It's kind of like how we put a tracking chip on like an animal or like a tag on a shark and we follow it and observe it. Like, I feel like it's very similar to that.
When Kubaki had first gone missing, the search team found his poles and skis at the edge of a lake. There was only one set of his footprints leading toward the water, but none walking away. They could only assume he drowned himself in the freezing lake. He had been missing for so long, everyone assumed he must be dead. The official explanation is that he had amnesia and that he was just like wandering around in a daze, I guess. But even doctors are baffled by his case. It's incredibly rare for someone to lose their memory of such a large chunk of time, and it still leaves so many unanswered questions. His story was included in a psychology case study in a book about amnesia, but even experts have been unable to figure out what actually happened. Kubaki had already earned a degree in linguistics before he went missing, but he was so fascinated by his own case that he went on to earn his PhD in psychology. He wanted answers about his own disappearance, and yet he still couldn't find them. Solving the mystery of his missing year became an obsession, and he went on to publish a book called Mathematical Foundations of Existence. Gödel, Quantum, God, and Beyond. In it, he writes about the possibility of alternate universes.
That's, other than like abduction, that's certainly what that sounds like.
I want to read that book now.
Yeah, I do too. It sounded too smart for me, though. Like, I don't even think I could say the title.
I know, that was a mouthful. But I'm going to look it up. And if it's too expensive, I'll just get you to buy it.
All right, deal. All right, so the last story, and I've heard this one, I believe, but in 1958, a 10-year-old partially deaf boy named Bobby Bizare was attending a Catholic camp for boys called Camp St. Malo that sits on the border of Rocky Mountain National Park. A camp counselor found him fishing at the river, and they told him to come back to camp for dinner. The boy started to follow him, and when the counselor looked over his shoulder to double check, Bobby had disappeared. 400 people searched for 9 days, but they found no clues. 1 year later, counselors found his hearing aid and bits of torn clothing 2,000 feet up the side of the mountain. The search party had already searched that area at least 3 times the year before. None of his other remains have ever been found. I'm telling you, that sounds like a mountain lion or something.
That is so sad.
That
the hearing aid.
It's always very sad when there's children involved. I mean, it's sad when adults, go missing as well. But I just like with this and the other one, my mind goes to mountain lion, and it's like, man, that's horrible. That's horrible that a kid had to go through something like that.
I wonder if they found his stuff on like a path or what, because like how would they randomly find that stuff that far up a mountain unless it was on a path?
Yeah, it didn't say, but I 2,000 feet. Like, to me, that sounds like something a mountain lion would do.
Do you just, like, when you hear stuff like that, do you just imagine it, like, straight up?
I think that's what our brain does. Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like my mind, I'm just seeing, like, 2,000 feet
right,
up.
like you have to like climb rocks.
It could have been a gradual 2,000 feet, you know. I mean, like when we go hiking, you know, you typically love it if you see like it's a slow elevation where it's like, you know, you're going to go 1,000 feet up, but it's going to take like miles to do it because it's a very slight incline.
That's better than the ones that are like crazy, like you go up the ones that are super steep and you're like, God, I can't wait to just go down, but going down is even harder.
It's so rough on your knees.
Yes.
Like it
I almost
really,
just want to like sit down and just like scoot the rest of the way.
It really is, man. I mean, like, yeah, it's easier on your like cardio, like your heart and everything, but it going downhill is
it's
so rough on your knees, man. Like it is bad. If I didn't, sometimes I'll take, especially for that, I'll take trekking poles.
That's smart.
For going downhill, you know, because it's like that, taking that pressure off your knees is so crucial.
I'm going to take a sled.
Should be hitting like people and
I'm
going to
put a rope on it and you can be behind me and like just hold the rope, you know.
I think you're having more fun than I am in this scenario. But if you have any interesting 411 stories, throw them in the comments section because this was just kind of a brief something to kind of talk about it and get it started. I definitely want to go into the history of it, and I would love to actually like categorize these, like when we do missing 411, like cases that are extremely similar.
Yeah.
In different ways. Like some may all be children found in places that they should not have been able to get to. Some could be, you know, people that just vanish without a trace, without a sound. That type deal, but it is really fascinating. Definitely check it out. It's so much more to it. I mean, that's like it sounds like missing people's cases, but no. In these national parks, man, people go missing in some really weird ways.
And the way that they just dismiss some of them is like really suspicious.
It is.
For me, it's like they definitely know something that we don't know.
Well, it could be like a Jaws situation too. Which I mean, I don't know. They don't really make money, I don't think, off
like
of people.
Like a what situation?
Like Jaws, where they didn't want to shut down the beach or talk about the shark killing people because they didn't want it to hurt tourism. I
was like, what kind of conspiracy theory is on Jaws that I don't know about, but you're talking about the plot of the movie.
Right. Yep. But hopefully you enjoyed tonight's podcast. Make sure to subscribe for more weird stuff on Wednesday. And also, we have a Conversational Questions podcast. We have a Patreon where we do Patreon cast. I need to get you on the Patreon cast. That's where we're just unfiltered. You can say what you want. You can cuss all you want. We just let it rip, and we don't really just...
Yeah, let me get on there.
Yeah, we need to get you on the Patreon cast.
I try to watch my mouth because my parents listen.
Oh, yeah, no, unless they pay
to hear me cuss.
They ain't going to be hearing the Patreon, so.
All right, yeah.
But hey, thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to check back, hit the little bell notification, all that good stuff, because YouTube makes it damn near impossible to keep up with people on here these days. So we'll see you soon. I'm Justin.
I'm Jessi.
And we're the Podcasting Dead. Nighty night. I'm going to bed.
I know.
Like right now. Like right here.